The solar system was never truly quiet. Planets moved in their endless orbits, comets left bright scars across the dark, and human machines buzzed in every corner of near space. Yet beyond Neptune, far past the regions most ships dared to travel, there was a silence that felt different. It was the silence of something waiting. Dr. Elena Marlowe stood at the observation window of the research station Aurora. The station was not large, but it was new, and its long silver arms stretched like a spider in the dark. Her eyes were fixed on the shape in the distance. It was massive, darker than the void itself, and so still that many wondered if it was only a shadow, but instruments confirmed it was real. A ship, a starship not made by human hands. It had been first noticed by accident. A telescope scanning faint radiation in the Kuiper belt caught a strange reflection. At first the scientists thought it was an asteroid, but the angles were too sharp, too precise. When probes approached, they revealed the truth. A structure 30 kilometers long, covered in scars of age. Its surface was burned and broken, but beneath the damage, the design was alien and deliberate. The discovery spread across Earth like fire. News channels called it the dead starship. Politicians debated ownership. Some wanted to study it. Others feared it. A few whispered that it should be destroyed before it could wake. But in the end, it was humanity's curiosity that won. A station was built nearby, and teams of scientists, engineers, and explorers arrived from all nations. They all looked at the ship with the same thought. What stories does it hold? The first encounter, Elena's assistant, a young technician named Ravi, broke her thoughts. Dr. Marlowe, the scans are in. No power, no life signs? Still the same. Elena nodded slowly. A giant tomb, she whispered. But even as she spoke, she felt that it was not dead. Something about the starship made her chest tighten. It felt less like a machine and more like a sleeping beast. Across the station, people argued endlessly. Some believed the ship was ancient and empty, the last trace of a vanished people. Others feared it was only resting, waiting for the right moment to rise again. The alien civilizations beyond the solar system, those who had quietly observed humanity for years, also noticed. From faraway stations and hidden probes, they watched as humans approached what they themselves avoided. Among them were the Clyari, a race of winged thinkers who prized caution above all things. Their leader hissed to her council, "Do not go near the Silent One. That ship carries the shadow of old wars. It is cursed." The Xylan, a species with crystalline minds, shared similar fear. "We left it drifting for a reason," they echoed among themselves. "If it stirs, destruction follows." But they did not warn humanity directly. They believed humans would be too afraid if they knew. They were wrong. The mission, the United Earth Council approved the first entry mission. 5 explorers were chosen. Dr. Elena Marlowe, astrophysicist and team leader. Ravi Patel, technician and systems specialist. Captain Marcus Hale, a former pilot known for his steady nerves. Dr. Yara Chen, biologist with sharp eyes for hidden dangers. Lieutenant Jonah Reyes, security officer trained to face the unknown. The night before departure, the team gathered in the common hall. The stars outside looked cold and endless. Captain Hale raised his glass of water. "Tomorrow we step into history. Remember this. Humanity has always walked where others feared to go. Let us be worthy of that." Elena felt a shiver at his words. She thought of Earth, the billions of people watching the broadcasts, their hopes and fears resting on the shoulders of 5. She thought of the alien eyes she knew were watching, though no one admitted it publicly. And she thought of the starship itself, silent in the dark like a sleeping monument to time. Boarding the giant, the shuttle detached from the station and flew toward the starship. Up close, the ship was breathtaking. Its surface was layered with metal plates black as coal, covered in cracks like dried riverbeds. Strange symbols marked its sides, lines and curves that seemed to move when stared at too long. "Docking port found," Ravi announced. "At least it looks like one. Aligning now." The shuttle connected with a slow metallic echo. The sound rang through their bones like a drumbeat from another age. Inside, the airlock creaked open, releasing a breath of air so old it was almost dust. Their helmets kept them safe, but the feeling of stepping through that door made even Jonah, the soldier, whisper, "Feels like we're walking into a legend." Corridors stretched ahead, wide enough for a train to pass. The walls glowed faintly with patterns that resembled constellations. Everything was quiet. But the silence was heavy, like the pause before a voice. Dr. Chen bent to examine a panel. The material isn't like anything we've seen. It's not corroding the way it should. Almost like the ship refuses to die. Elena placed her hand on the wall. The surface was cold, yet she felt a strange pulse beneath it, as if something deep inside was aware of her touch. Whispers of suspicion. Back on Aurora, other scientists followed the team's signals nervously. The whole world listened, but not everyone was pleased. On Earth, politicians argued again. "We do not know what we are waking," one senator cried. This could be the end of us. In hidden alien councils, the fear grew sharper. The Cleari leader pressed her wings flat in dread. They are inside. The humans have no respect for silence. The starship will not ignore them. Yet humanity kept moving forward step by step, deeper into the giant. The heart of the ship. The explorers reached a chamber vast as a cathedral. Towers of crystal rose from the floor, each one filled with dark liquid that glimmered faintly in their lights. At the center stood a structure like a throne, but empty, as though waiting for something to sit upon it. "This is no warship," Elena murmured. "This is something else. A place of memory, perhaps." Ravi's instruments beeped suddenly. "Wait, I'm detecting energy. Very faint, but there." Everyone froze. Captain Hale's voice was low. "So it's not dead after all." The crystals pulsed once, faintly. Then the chamber went dark and a sound filled the air. Not a roar, not a scream, but a deep, steady hum like the heartbeat of the ship itself. The team looked at one another in awe and fear. They had come seeking knowledge, and they had found something greater, a presence. Elena whispered the words everyone felt, but none wanted to speak. "It knows we are here." Closing apart one outside, the alien observers trembled. The humans had gone where none dared, and the ship had stirred at their touch. The dead starship was no longer silent, and for the first time in thousands of years, it began to wake. The chamber was silent again, but the explorers could feel it breathing around them. Not in sound, not in motion, but in a kind of pressure, as though the walls themselves listened. Their suit sensors flickered with unreadable signals. The crystals stood tall like guardians, pulsing faintly as if they held the memory of light. Elena Marlowe's hand trembled as she adjusted her scanner. "The ship is not dead," she whispered. Captain Hale raised a hand to steady her voice. "Then we keep our heads. No sudden moves. We came here to learn, not to panic." But it was too late to feel calm. Everyone sensed it. They had stepped into something vast and ancient, and now it was awake. Strange patterns. Ravi Patel crouched beside the nearest crystal. His scanner buzzed with confused energy. "Doctor, these towers, they're storing something. Not fuel, not power, information." Elena bent closer, her visor reflecting the faint glow. "Like archives?" "Maybe. But the data structure is nothing like ours. I can't even tell if it's numbers or something else." Yara Chen frowned. "If it's alive, it could be memories or thoughts." The idea sent a chill through them all. Jonah Reyes, the security officer, shifted uncomfortably. "So, we're standing inside someone's brain?" "Or a library," Elena said quickly, though the truth was, she wasn't sure. "A library built by a civilization older than anything we've known." A whisper in the dark as they explored. Their suit microphones picked up faint echoes. At first they thought it was feedback, but the sound repeated, low, distant, like a word stretched across time. Elena froze. "Did you hear that?" The others nodded silently. The whisper grew stronger, forming shapes that almost resembled language. The explorers could not understand the words, yet somehow they felt meaning pressing into their minds, not through the ears but directly into thought. The ship was speaking. Ravi's voice cracked. "It's asking something." "What?" Hale demanded. Ravi shook his head. "I don't know, but it feels like it's asking if we belong." Watching eyes far from the chamber across the dark of space, alien eyes watched the feed from the Aurora station. The Cleari leader, feathers shivering, spoke with dread. "It stirs. The humans have touched the echoes. We told ourselves the starship was silent forever. We were wrong." Among the crystalline Zalen, whispers rang like bells. The humans hear its voice, it does not speak to us, only them. Why? No one had the answer. But one truth was clear. The starship was awake, and it had chosen humanity as the first to hear. The Hall of Symbols. The explorers followed the whispers deeper into the ship. Corridors opened into vast halls, their walls covered with glowing symbols. The writing shifted when viewed from different angles, rearranging itself like liquid. Jonah tested one with his glove. The symbols rippled under his touch and reformed into new patterns. Dr. Chen gasped. "It's adapting to us. It's trying to be understood." Elena studied the symbols carefully. At first, they were meaningless, but as the team moved farther, some of the shapes began to resemble human letters, fragmented but familiar. Ravi's scanner translated. A phrase appeared on his screen, broken but clear enough. "You have come at last." Everyone stood frozen. Hale muttered, "It knows us." Fear and debate back on Aurora. The control room erupted in chaos as the translated words appeared on their monitors. "It's speaking to them," one scientist cried. "We must pull them out," a commander argued. "We don't know its purpose." But the Council on Earth ordered patience. This was the greatest discovery in human history, perhaps in galactic history. Humanity had touched something that remembered them, or had been waiting for them. A test of minds in the chamber. More symbols lit up. They arranged themselves into shapes resembling questions, pictures rather than words. A tree, a star, a human hand, a flame. Ravi tilted his head. "It's asking us to respond." Elena raised her tablet, drew a simple circle, and projected it against the wall. The symbols shifted in answer, reshaping into a sun rising above a planet. The team watched in awe. "It's not just talking," Yara whispered. "It's teaching." The alien witnesses fear beyond the solar system. Alien councils trembled. The Cleari hissed among themselves. This is how it begins. The ship tests them. It will give them power. Power no species should carry. The Zalen resonated in fear. "We avoided the ship because we knew it would choose. And it has chosen, not us." Yet none dared to move closer. They waited in silence, watching humans walk where legends warned them not to tread. The Chamber of Memory. The explorers found another vast room. This one was lined with great black mirrors. When they approached, the mirrors lit with images, scenes of galaxies, of alien faces long extinct, of wars fought with unimaginable weapons. Yara whispered, "These are its memories." Elena pressed a hand against the glass. A new image appeared, Earth, shining blue against the void. The explorers gasped. "It knows our world," Hale said. Jonah swallowed. "How? How does it know?" Then words appeared across the mirror in broken English, waited for humans. Questions of destiny. Elena's voice shook as she spoke to the ship. "Why us? Why wait for us?" The mirrors flickered, showing again the image of Earth. Then a new sequence. A human figure standing among alien shapes, small, but holding a torch of light. The torch spread brightness across the darkness, while the others stood still. Ravi whispered, "It sees us as the torchbearers." Yara frowned. "But what if it's wrong? What if we're not ready?" Captain Hale placed a hand on her shoulder. "Maybe it's not about being ready. Maybe it's about being willing." Rising suspicion, the ship's words spread fast across Earth. Some celebrated, believing humanity had been chosen for greatness. Others were afraid, warning that the starship might be a trap. Alien fleets on the edge of human space grew restless. Messages of caution and warning passed between their leaders. They wondered if they should intervene before humanity gained what the starship offered. But inside the ship, the explorers were too deep in awe to hear the fears beyond. A pulse of warning. The crystals in the central chamber began to glow brighter, pulsing faster like a heartbeat racing. The whispers grew urgent. Ravi's scanner translated fragments. Danger. Shadow. Test. What danger? Jonah demanded. His hand hovered near his weapon, though he knew it was useless against something this vast. The ship did not answer directly. Instead, the mirrors lit again, showing images of destruction. Worlds burning, fleets shattered, civilizations erased. Then, slowly, the images shifted to something else. Hands joined, bridges built, stars shared between species. Two paths. Two futures, Elena understood. It's warning us. It's showing us the choice. Division leads to ruin. Unity leads to survival. The others stared in silence. Closing of Part 2. The hum of the ship deepened, shaking the walls as though preparing for something greater. On Earth, in alien councils, and in the silent halls of the starship, one truth became clear. Humanity had been called into a story older than their world, and the next step would test not just their courage, but their spirit. The dead starship had awakened, and its first words were for humanity. The starship was alive now. It no longer felt like a silent tomb. Its corridors pulsed faintly with light, as if blood flowed once again through ancient veins. The 5 explorers could feel it in their bones. Something vast and intelligent was watching them. Dr. Elena Marlowe stood in the middle of the crystal chamber, eyes fixed on the mirrors that showed shifting images. She felt both wonder and dread. The ship had spoken through symbols and visions showing paths of ruin and paths of hope. Now the meaning grew clearer. It wants to test us, Elena whispered. Captain Hale crossed his arms, steady as always. Test us how? Ravi Patel shook his head, studying his scanner. I think it's building simulations, scenarios. It wants to see how we react. Jonah Reyes, the security officer, muttered. So it's judging us, like some kind of trial. Yara Chen's voice was softer, almost awed. Not judging, choosing, it's deciding if we're worthy. The first trial, survival. The chamber shifted suddenly. The crystals pulsed and the walls dissolved into light. The explorers gasped as the floor vanished beneath them. They stood on barren ground under a dying sky. Red storms howled, tearing across a wasteland filled with cracked stone and broken ruins. Their suits still worked, but the air outside looked poisonous. This isn't real, Elena said, heart racing. It's a projection. A test. Ravi pointed to a distant glow. It wants us to go there. The team moved together, fighting against the storm. The ground shook with each step, forcing them to help one another. When Jonah stumbled, Yara caught his arm and pulled him up. When Ravi's scanner was nearly ripped from his hands by the wind, Hale steadied him. At last, they reached the glow. It was a shelter, faint and fragile, but enough to shield them from the storm. The vision faded, returning them to the crystal chamber. On the mirrors, words formed in broken English. You chose to help each other. Good. Elena felt her chest tighten. The ship was not looking for strength or speed. It was looking for something deeper. The second trial, division. The crystals pulsed again. This time the projection was a city. Not Earth City, but something alien, filled with tall spires and wide streets. Crowds of ghostly figures filled the roads, moving without sound. Suddenly chaos spread. Fires erupted. The crowd split into 2 groups, each shouting without words. The explorers felt the anger and fear pressing on them. The ship presented a choice. One group waved desperately, begging for protection. The other group offered weapons, urging the explorers to join them in fighting. Jonah instinctively reached for his weapon. We can't help them all. We need to side with strength. Yara shook her head. No, that only adds to the war. Look at them, they're afraid, not evil. Elena stepped forward, raising both hands. No fighting. We bring them together. The others hesitated, but followed her lead. They moved between the groups, signaling peace, urging calm. Slowly, the crowd quieted. The fires dimmed and the figures faded into light. Back in the chamber, the mirrors glowed with new words. You chose unity. Hope. Captain Hale let out a slow breath. It's watching how we handle conflict. Not just survival, but how we treat others. Alien observers in Fearfar from the starship, alien councils watched with growing unease. The Cleari leader hissed to her people. The humans pass its trials. They succeed where others failed. This is dangerous, the Zalan echoed with alarm. We avoided these tests because they promised destruction. Yet the humans embrace them. Why does the ship value them? In silence, fleets began to move closer to the solar system. They did not dare enter yet, but fear pushed them toward intervention. The third trial, sacrifice. The chamber darkened once again. The explorers now stood on a narrow bridge of stone stretched across a bottomless void. Ahead, a shining gate glimmered like salvation, but the bridge was broken. A wide gap cut across their path. To reach the gate, someone would have to stay behind and hold the collapsing structure, or else all would fall. The meaning was cruelly clear. One must sacrifice for the others. Jonah clenched his jaw. "It's me. I'll do it. I'm security. This is my duty." Yara's eyes filled with tears. "No, we can't lose anyone. There has to be another way." Elena's heart raced. She looked at the collapsing bridge, then at her team. Maybe it's not asking for real death. Maybe it's asking if we're willing. Hale stepped forward. "Then I'll take the risk. A captain leads by example." But before he could move, Ravi cried out, "Wait! Look, there's another path." He pointed to the side where faint symbols glowed on the stone. Together they pressed their hands against the symbols, and the gap reshaped itself into a new bridge. The team crossed safely. When the vision ended, the chamber whispered with approval. "You sought sacrifice, but found another way, creative, human." Elena smiled weakly. It wasn't looking for death. It was looking for imagination. The ship speaks clearer. The ship's voice grew stronger, less broken. The mirrors now showed longer phrases. Others came. They failed. They fought. They feared. You help. You create. You hope. The explorers exchanged glances. Yara whispered, "Others tried this before us. Other species. And they failed." Ravi added softly, "That's why the aliens avoid it. They couldn't pass the tests." Elena shivered. "Then this ship has been waiting. For us." The alien fleets gather beyond human knowledge. Alien fleets drew near the edge of the solar system. They gathered in silence, fearful and angry. "They must not be allowed to claim the starship," the Cleari said. "If humanity becomes its heir, they will rise above us all." The Zalan answered, "But if we interfere, the ship may strike us instead. It protects them." So they waited, blades hidden in the dark as humanity's trial continued. The fourth trial. Trust. The chamber shifted one final time. The explorers now stood in darkness, each separated from the others by invisible walls. A voice pressed into their minds. No longer broken but clear. "You are alone, you can escape. But only one, who will it be?" Each of them saw a doorway glowing ahead. All they had to do was walk through and they would be free. But only one. Elena closed her eyes, refusing the door. "No, I will not leave them." Hale shook his head at his own door. A captain does not abandon his crew. Ravi trembled, staring at the light. But he turned away. "Not without the others," Yara whispered. "We came together." "We leave together." Jonah gritted his teeth. "Then we stay or fall as one." At once the walls dissolved. The five stood together again, and the mirrors flared with golden light. "You chose trust. You are worthy." The chamber's hum rose until it shook their very bones. Closing of Part 3. The ship had tested them. It had seen their survival, their unity, their imagination, their trust, and it had judged them worthy. Elena gazed at the glowing crystals with awe and fear. This is only the beginning. It hasn't shown us everything yet. Outside, alien fleets crept closer, preparing for a conflict humanity did not yet know. The dead starship was awake, and its trials were complete. The time for true choice was coming. The crystal chamber glowed brighter than before. The air felt heavier, like the weight of 1,000 years pressing down on the explorers. The walls hummed softly, and the mirrors shimmered with images of stars. Galaxies and civilizations, some alive, some fallen into dust. The dead starship was speaking to them now, not in whispers, but in thought. Its voice was deep, calm, and certain. "You have passed the trials. You have shown survival, unity, imagination, trust. Now you must choose." The words came not through sound, but directly into their minds. Elena swallowed. "A choice?" The chamber pulsed. A new vision appeared, an enormous gate shining brighter than any star. Through it lay a possibility unlike anything they had seen, a future shaped by knowledge beyond imagining. Yet beside it was another vision, A storm of shadow of endless war and ruin. The ship's meaning became clear. It offered humanity a choice. The path of light or the path of shadow. The visitors from afar outside the solar system. Alien fleets gathered. Their communications were filled with urgency. The Cleari leader hissed in warning to her people. The humans are chosen. They will decide not only their fate, but the fate of all. The Zalan added with cold certainty, "We cannot allow them to carry such power. If humanity steps through that gate, nothing will ever be the same." But the alien councils disagreed among themselves. Fear of humanity's choice split them. No one could predict the outcome. And so they waited. A council in the ship inside the starship, the explorers gathered before the glowing gate. The air shimmered as if reality itself had thinned. The ship's thought spoke again. Choose wisely. This path is not reversible. The explorers spoke quietly among themselves. Yarachen's voice was trembling. We've passed every test. But what will this choice mean? This is not only for us. It's for every living thing in the galaxy. Captain Marcus Hale's voice was steady. We can't ignore that. This is not just our destiny. It's the test of humanity itself. Ravi Patel adjusted his scanner, though he knew it would not answer the question. We don't know what's beyond. We only know what we have seen so far. Jonah Reyes clenched his fists. Whatever we choose, others will follow or resist. We cannot please everyone. Elena stepped forward, her voice soft but firm. It's why the choice is ours. Because humanity must prove it is worthy. The vision of light, the gate, pulsed brighter. Through it, the explorers saw wonders beyond imagining. Worlds united in peace. Civilizations sharing knowledge freely. Stars alive with new life. The ship showed them images of cooperation, of beings helping one another across galaxies. No war, no greed, no destruction. Only growth. Yara's eyes filled with tears. This is what we've always hoped for. Hale nodded. It is the dream of every explorer to bring light, not darkness. But the vision was not without warning. Beneath the beauty lay a subtle thread. The knowledge given could corrupt if used for selfish gain. The ship's thought pressed into them. Power without wisdom leads to ruin. Elena looked to her team. We must be careful. This is not a gift to take lightly. The vision of shadow. The gate shimmered again, revealing another future. Worlds in chaos, civilizations at war, empires rising and falling, a galaxy bleeding under endless conflict. The ship showed them scenes of power misused, knowledge turned into weapons, trust replaced with fear. The light of discovery twisted into domination. Jonah shuddered. This is what happens when we forget why we were chosen. Ravi added quietly. We can't control how others use what we choose to take. The ship's thought was clear. This path is easier, but it leads to oblivion. Elena knew then that the trials were more than tests. They were preparation for this moment. The debate of humanity. The 5 explorers gathered around the glowing gate. The silence was heavy. Hale broke the quiet. If we walk through that gate, we carry responsibility. Not just for ourselves, but for every being who comes after us. Yara spoke softly. The shadows are real. But so is the light. I believe humanity should choose light. Jonah frowned. We don't know what will happen. We could be walking into a trap. Ravi said. We pass the trials not by strength but by unity and creativity. That must guide our choice. Elena looked at each of them. The ship chose to speak to us. It gave us the chance. This is not about fear. This is about proving humanity's worth. Hale nodded. Then we choose together. The decision, they stepped closer to the gate. The ship's thought filled their minds one last time. Humanity must decide if it is ready. Choose the light. Choose hope. Or choose the shadow. Choose fear. Elena reached for Hale's hand. We stand together. One by one they stepped forward. And then all 5 moved through the gate as one. A rush of light swept over them. A sensation of knowledge and life folding into their minds. The ship hummed, deeper and stronger than ever before. The aftermath. The chamber was silent. The gate closed. The crystal walls dimmed. But the explorers were changed. They carried something beyond words, a vision of what humanity could become. Outside, alien fleets hesitated. The Cleari whispered warnings. The Zalan murmured fearfully. All waited to see what choice humanity had made. From the edge of the starship came a voice, not in sound but in thought. clear and full of meaning. Humanity has chosen. The future begins with them. Elena looked at her team, her heart heavy with responsibility. We passed the test, but the real trial is only beginning. Hale placed his hand on her shoulder. Whatever comes, humanity will face it together. And far across the galaxy, eyes watched in awe, fear, and hope. The choice had been made. The question now was, what would humanity do with it? Closing of Part 4, the dead starship had offered its final trial. Humanity had chosen unity, hope, and light. But across the stars, uncertainty grew. Some wondered if humanity was truly ready for such power. Others feared it. The galaxy waited. And humanity stepped forward, carrying a destiny it had never imagined. The next chapter was not written yet. But the dead starship had spoken. And its first words for humanity had shaped the future. The light faded. The explorers stepped through the gate together, feeling as if they were crossing not just space but time itself. The air around them felt different, alive. The walls of the chamber had disappeared, replaced by a vast horizon of stars stretching farther than the eye could see. The dead starship was no longer silent. It pulsed with life. A voice entered their minds, not broken this time, but clear and certain. You have chosen. The choice belongs to humanity. The path is open. Elena Marlowe closed her eyes, feeling a rush of understanding. It gave us a test and we passed. Now it gives us a gift. Hale's voice was steady but quiet, and a responsibility. The world awakes back on Earth. The news spread faster than any message before. Humanity had entered the starship. They had returned changed. Their transmissions carried a truth no one could deny. Something had awoken inside the dead starship, and it was bound to humanity now. The gates of other civilizations opened. Aliens who had watched from afar sent envoys. Some came in peace, others with suspicion, but all came to see the species chosen by the ancient starship. On Earth, leaders met in emergency councils. The voices of scientists, philosophers, and soldiers argued in equal measure. The future of humanity was no longer just a human matter. It was a question for the entire galaxy. A gift of knowledge. Inside the ship, the explorers moved toward its heart. A great crystal chamber awaited them, larger and more radiant than any they had seen. At its center hovered a sphere of light spinning with infinite patterns. The ship's voice spoke. This is the core of memory. It contains knowledge from beyond your time. Use it wisely. Teach, protect, unite. Ravi stepped forward, awed. It is everything. Every discovery, every truth, the sphere pulsed. Symbols wrapped around their minds, teaching them languages, mathematics, histories, even glimpses of science they had never imagined. It was a library of all civilizations, past and future. Elena's eyes filled with tears. It is giving us everything. Hale's voice was firm. And with that, it is giving us a choice again, how to use it. The question of power. The alien fleets had arrived in full view now, circling the starship. Their ships glimmered under the light of distant suns, their presence both a threat and a challenge. The Cleari Council spoke urgently. Humanity must not be allowed to carry such knowledge. It will make them masters of the galaxy. The Zalan said softly. Perhaps it is the ship's choice. Perhaps humanity is meant to lead. Humanity stood between fear and hope. The decision they made now would shape the galaxy for centuries. Inside the ship, Elena addressed her team. We cannot keep this for ourselves. This knowledge must be shared. It is not ours alone, Hale nodded. Then we must tell the galaxy. But we must also be ready to protect it. Yara added. We must prove we are worthy, not just through words but through action. Jonah said quietly. We will face resistance, but we must stand united. Ravi looked at the glowing sphere. The ship gave us a gift. It also gave us a duty. The first contact, the explorers left the chamber and stepped onto the observation deck. Outside, alien ships awaited. Their leaders sent signals, their voices filled with both curiosity and caution. Elena opened a channel. We come in peace, she said simply. We carry the choice of the dead starship. We will share what it has given us. We invite all to learn together. The silence was long. Then a reply came. Not in words, but in thought, carried across minds. We will watch. We will decide. Some fleets turned away, still cautious. Others approached. And some prepared for war. But humanity stood firm, offering knowledge, not weapons. A new dawn, the dead starship pulsed again. Its voice filled every mind on the station. Humanity has chosen light. It is time for the next step. Protect it, nurture it, and let it grow. The explorers looked at one another. They understood now that this was not the end of a journey. It was the beginning of a new one. The starship opened paths to distant worlds, sending visions of peace, cooperation, and exploration. Humanity had become not just a species of Earth, but a species of the galaxy. On Earth, the people watched as their leaders and explorers began a new age. They named it the Age of Awakening, the time when humanity stepped beyond their world to take a place among the stars. The challenge ahead, but not all welcomed this change. Some feared humanity's power. Some doubted their readiness. The alien fleet still watched closely, ready to challenge humanity if they failed to prove themselves. The explorers knew the path would not be easy. Power without wisdom could still destroy. But they also knew that humanity had passed trials no other species could pass. Elena spoke quietly to her team, her voice full of determination. We have a duty now, not just to ourselves but to every living thing in the galaxy. The dead starship has chosen us. We must live up to that choice. Hale placed his hand on hers. We will, together. The legacy, the dead starship, began to change. The crystal towers shone brighter. The corridors hummed with knowledge. The vessel, once silent, now became a beacon of light for the galaxy. Its first words for humanity echoed forever. You have come. You have chosen. The future begins with you. The explorers left the ship carrying its gift. They brought knowledge, unity, and a promise. Humanity had been tested. They had been chosen. The galaxy was watching. And humanity was ready to step forward. Somewhere in the far reaches of space, beyond the sight of all, a new star was born. The star of humanity's legacy. Closing. The dead starship had awoken for one reason. It had sought a species willing to prove itself not with power but with unity. Humanity had answered that call. The trials were over. The choice was made. The legacy was theirs. And humanity's story, once bound to a small blue planet, now stretched across the stars. A new chapter had begun. The galaxy would never forget the first words of the dead starship. Humanity, you have come at last.